you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
Nigga, you can take the but he wants you.
Orlando's name is echoing inside a federal courtroom. And it's not about clout. It's about cold, hard evidence. Because this time, Orlando Brown isn't the story. He's the witness. Yeah, you heard that right. Orlando Brown has officially flipped on Diddy. He's taken a subpoena, agreed to testify under oath, and allegedly turned over secret voice memos recorded during weekends at Diddy's properties. This isn't rumor. This isn't speculation. This is federal court, sealed evidence, and digital forensics.
If this Diddy saga has you hooked, just wait. More secrets are coming out, more stars are speaking up, and things are only getting wilder from here. So hit that subscribe button right now and stay locked in. Because when the next bombshell drops, you're gonna want to be the first to know, not the last to catch up. This is just the beginning.
Let's unpack everything. Because this latest twist might be the most dangerous development in Diddy's entire trial. It started quietly, like most major turns do. Orlando Brown, who's been in and out of headlines for years due to his personal struggles, was considered an unreliable narrator by many. But behind the scenes, he was sitting on recordings, private audio files reportedly captured on his phone during exclusive weekends at Diddy's private estates. Not parties, not concerts, private gatherings. According to sources tied to the prosecution, Orlando claims he started recording for his own protection. What he captured: allegedly conversations, sounds, and scenarios that support key claims made by other witnesses. And yes, prosecutors believe some of the things caught on tape directly contradict Diddy's timeline of events. But it doesn't stop there. Orlando's recordings, reportedly dozens of them, are now being cross-referenced with digital evidence. We're talking router logs, lighting system data, smart home timestamps. If you're asking, how the hell is that even relevant? Well, welcome to modern courtrooms. See, every high-end property is now packed with smart tech. And Diddy's estates? We're talking full digital infrastructure. Advanced lighting presets, room entry logs, custom sound systems, and Wi-Fi networks that log every device the moment it connects. Prosecutors are using this digital trail to create a minute-by-minute breakdown of who was where, what time Orlando was in specific rooms, and whether his devices synced with local systems, proving he was there when he says he was. It's the kind of airtight evidence that doesn't rely on emotion or memory. It's numbers, code, data, and that's dangerous for the defense. Now, Diddy's lawyers aren't taking this lightly. They've already moved to discredit the audio, claiming it's heavily edited, taken out of context, and representative of nothing more than eccentric celebrity behavior. Basically, they're arguing that what Orlando captured might sound bizarre, but it's not criminal. Their claim: this was just private eccentricity at elite-level parties. That what might shock the public isn't necessarily illegal. A bold strategy, but also a risky one. Because the recordings allegedly include references to intimidation, moments of pressure, and disturbing comments made to guests and staff. If any of that sticks in front of a jury, it's over. And here's the twist that no one saw coming. Orlando didn't just come forward out of nowhere. Insiders say he approached investigators months ago, that he was quietly cooperating, feeding info to the feds long before anyone saw his name on a court document. Which means the prosecution has had time to verify what he said and prep for what he's about to say on the stand. And let's be clear, Orlando isn't some bit part in this trial. According to preliminary filings, he's being treated as a key corroborating witness. His testimony is expected to link private events to larger allegations. Specifically, claims involving coercion, unlawful surveillance, and yes, party guests being pressured into silence. Which raises a huge question: why did Diddy let him in to begin with? Some are speculating that Orlando was invited during a time when Diddy thought he could keep things under wraps. That Orlando's reputation, often mocked by the media, made him seem like a safe guest. Someone who wouldn't be believed if he ever talked. Big mistake. Because now, Orlando's unpredictable public persona is actually working in his favor. He doesn't need the clout. He's not afraid to say wild things. And in court, that makes him hard to rattle. He's unpredictable, unfiltered, and not playing the industry game anymore. And let's talk about what this means for the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about Diddy. This is about event culture in celebrity circles. For years, people have whispered about the private parties, the A-list weekends, the no phones allowed rule. And now, with Orlando's tapes, we might finally hear why those rules existed. Because if what he says is true, if guests were being surveilled, manipulated, coerced, and sometimes even recorded, then this isn't just a criminal case. It's a full-on cultural collapse. Already, whispers in the industry are turning into policy changes. According to reports, several major event hosts, Hollywood producers, music moguls, fashion PR teams, are now implementing consent-based guest safety policies. Basically, you walk into a room, you get a written outline of what will and won't happen. You sign off on cameras, behavior expectations, boundaries. Think of it like a party NDA, but for guest safety. It's wild that it took a case like this to push that kind of change, but here we are. And it doesn't stop at events. There are now early-stage legislative proposals circulating in California and New York aimed at tightening regulation around private celebrity functions. Specifically, guidelines about disclosing surveillance, power dynamics at branded events, and protections for vulnerable or intoxicated guests. Yes, the ripple effects of this one witness, Orlando Brown, are already being felt at the policy level. And let's not forget the most important piece of this: credibility. Orlando's testimony, for all its shock value, is only effective if the jury believes him. But now that his digital evidence is matching timelines, phone pings, and smart system data, his words have weight. He's no longer just a former Disney star with a wild past. He's now a man with verified receipts. And that scares people. Because if Orlando had the guts to hit record, and the clarity to hand that over, who else has footage? Who else has audio? Who else is sitting on evidence they haven't shared yet? Remember, it only takes one person with proof to open the floodgates. And this case, it's starting to look more like a dam ready to burst. So what happens next? Orlando is scheduled to testify in the early stages of the trial's second week. Prosecutors are expected to play clips of the recordings in open court. If that happens, and the public gets a taste of what's on those tapes, expect the narrative to shift. Fast. And Diddy? He's reportedly furious. According to a source close to the situation, he never saw Orlando's cooperation coming. He assumed the wild card wouldn't be taken seriously. That was the gamble. And it looks like he lost. So now we wait. For the recordings. For the testimony. For the moment when a former child star gets up in front of a packed federal courtroom and helps build a case against one of the most powerful men in entertainment. Because if what he says sticks, Diddy's not just facing headlines. He's facing history. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe Orlando? Do you think his recordings will be enough to sway a jury? Or is this just another dramatic twist in an already explosive case? Subscribe for real-time updates, because this trial is about to get even louder. Let's get one thing straight. This case is no longer just about what happened at a few lavish parties. What's unfolding now is an unprecedented digital excavation of celebrity power and Orlando Brown's audio recordings. That was just the opening shot. Because according to new filings, yes, more are being leaked almost daily now, prosecutors are requesting server access to Diddy's in-home entertainment systems. Think that's a stretch? It's not. Smart homes log everything: lighting patterns, voice command history, even which zones of the house were active at what times. Legal analysts are calling this a reverse engineering of intent. In plain English, they're trying to reconstruct behavior through the architecture of the home itself. Not what someone says happened, but what the environment confirms. Picture this. Prosecutors show the jury that the lighting system was dimmed at a specific hour, that music was cut in a certain wing of the property, that no phones were connected to Wi-Fi during that time except for Orlando's, and that, minutes later, his audio recording begins. Now ask yourself, does that still sound like a party? And if you think that's invasive, just wait. Because now there's talk about ring-fencing the guest list. See, one of the key angles the prosecution is now pushing involves intentional guest isolation. Their claim is that not only were certain events highly curated, but that some guests, like Orlando, were allegedly invited for specific, predatory reasons. This is where things start to get dangerous for anyone who's ever claimed to be just in the room. Investigators are looking at metadata on invitation emails, travel records, and even rideshare data to determine which guests were brought in, how they were transported, who coordinated it, and whether the people involved knew what kind of environment they were walking into. This isn't just about consent anymore. This is about setup. And while all that's unraveling, Diddy's legal team is trying something bold. They filed a preemptive motion to limit the types of digital exhibits that can be played in open court. Their argument? That some of the tech evidence, particularly recordings without direct faces or names, could prejudice the jury beyond repair. But prosecutors aren't buying it. In fact, they're leaning into it. Their stance is clear. If the defense wants to claim it was all innocent fun, let the jury hear what that fun sounded like. And this is where things get even murkier. There are rumors of overlapping investigations. Not officially confirmed, yet, but strong chatter suggests that state-level authorities in California are now sniffing around property-specific permits and liability claims related to Diddy's estates. The theory: if any of these alleged events happened in spaces not zoned or licensed for commercial gatherings, Diddy could be exposed to additional civil or criminal penalties at the municipal level. Think fire code violations, unlicensed security personnel, unreported gatherings over legal capacity. This might sound small time, but stack enough local infractions on top of a federal indictment, and what you get is a pile-on strategy. Bleed the defendant's resources. Break the legal team's focus. Distract and divide until something cracks. And cracks are starting to show. Sources close to the defense say that 2 junior attorneys from Diddy's original legal team have stepped down in recent weeks. Publicly, they're citing reassignments. Privately, there are whispers of internal disagreements about how much discovery to contest and whether to allow Diddy to testify on his own behalf, something the prosecution would love, by the way. The concern? That Diddy, under pressure, might go off script. That he might lose composure. That he might even implicate others. Because let's not forget, he's not the only one at risk. That brings us to the industry-wide fallout, which is now moving from whispers to actual boardroom panic. A well-known streaming platform is reportedly reconsidering its Legends of Hip-Hop docuseries rollout because several of the planned episodes include now controversial figures, Diddy among them. Staff at the network have allegedly raised concerns that airing episodes without editing them could trigger boycotts, lawsuits, or even subpoenas. Why? Because if a company profits from glorifying someone currently under federal investigation, and they knew about the accusations beforehand, it could be considered negligent cultural complicity. In simpler terms, brands are scared, not of guilt, but of association. And it's not just the networks. Fashion houses that once collaborated with Diddy are said to be scrubbing old campaign assets. At least one European luxury label is quietly pulling archive photos from their website. Another removed Diddy from its internal ambassador roster just this week. No statement. No public condemnation. Just a silent extraction. But even as the walls close in, some corners of the entertainment world are still hedging their bets. Certain legacy artists are defending Diddy indirectly, using the same tired language. We weren't there. He's always been good to me. Let's wait for the facts. It's the classic celebrity defense script. Passive, non-committal, strategically vague. But fans aren't buying it. Social media is flooded with side-by-side receipts. You weren't there, one commenter writes, linking an old backstage photo. Then why were you in that VIP section in 2016? Because the public is done playing along. They're no longer satisfied with silence or soft statements. They want accountability, and they want it from everyone who looked the other way. Which brings us to a quietly terrifying development, a rumored spreadsheet. Yes, multiple sources close to the case have said that part of the government's internal evidence includes what they're calling a risk matrix, a spreadsheet mapping which celebrities were present at which events, what lawsuits or settlements followed, and whether any of them cross-reference with sealed legal claims or NDAs. This isn't a hit list. It's a proximity map. And if even part of it goes public, you're looking at an extinction-level event for multiple careers. Because suddenly, being near something is enough to get you subpoenaed, to get your texts read in court, to get old footage pulled, analyzed, and weaponized. That's what Orlando's testimony has triggered, a forensic cascade. And just wait, because there's more to come. Court insiders are now suggesting that Orlando Brown is not the only surprise witness. His testimony may open the door for other celebrity insiders to come forward, now that they've seen someone go first and live to tell about it. Names aren't confirmed, but rumors are swirling about. A well-known R&B producer with ties to both Diddy and early 2000s reality shows. A model-turned-wellness influencer who has allegedly spoken off the record about being coerced into silence. A former security consultant who left the industry and has since changed his name, only to resurface now as a potential federal informant. These aren't TMZ rumors. These are sealed witness identities, tied to evidentiary chains. If even one of them gets greenlit to testify, this won't just be about Orlando anymore. It'll be the beginning of celebrity reckoning. And we haven't even reached the trial's midpoint. So ask yourself, what's going to happen when the recordings get played? When the cross-examinations start? When timelines begin overlapping and one party turns out to be a full-blown operation? Because right now, Orlando Brown isn't just testifying. He's igniting something bigger. And the system isn't ready. As Orlando Brown prepares to take the stand, the energy around Diddy's courtroom is changing, from tense to straight-up paranoid. And it's not just Diddy who's sweating. Because the mere mention of audio recordings, time-stamped router logs, and now potentially smart home surveillance integration has thrown the entire celebrity inner circle into crisis mode. Let's talk about the new paranoia sweeping through the scene. Multiple sources, including former employees of Combs Enterprises, are now coming forward, some off the record, some through sealed interviews, with a disturbing thread. Guests were constantly being watched. Not just security cameras at the gate watched. We're talking interior smart cams, mirrored rooms, lifestyle tracking apps, and most notably, controlled sound zones where music and white noise were used to mask what was happening in specific areas of the house. The implication here is huge, that Diddy's properties weren't just elite hangout spots, they were curated ecosystems built for control. Lighting, audio, temperature, everything programmable, everything trackable. And according to insiders, that system was allegedly used to manage more than just ambience. It was used to manage people. That's where the federal investigators are digging in next, trying to determine whether guests were monitored in private areas, whether recordings existed beyond Orlando's own tapes, and whether any of that surveillance footage, or even metadata, was saved, stored, or shared. Now, here's where it gets scarier. People who were once laughing off the case are suddenly lawyering up fast. Managers, stylists, former party promoters, real estate consultants, even brand reps from companies that sponsored Diddy-affiliated events are reportedly being advised to prepare for subpoenas. Why? Because prosecutors are allegedly looking at whether brands knew what kind of environments they were sponsoring. If those brands flew in influencers, hired hosts, or brought liquor to the premises and there was any misconduct occurring, that's civil liability. Meanwhile, let's talk about the psychological warfare inside the courtroom. Diddy's defense team is reportedly crafting a dual strategy. On one hand, they're trying to discredit Orlando as emotionally unstable, publicity-hungry, and manipulative. On the other hand, they're presenting Diddy as the victim of a coordinated smear campaign. But here's what's fascinating. Every day Orlando's name trends, Diddy goes quieter. No leaks, no PR pushes, no sympathetic media stories. His team is pulling back, possibly realizing that every attempt to frame this as just another celeb scandal makes things worse. And that silence is deafening. Because in celebrity legal warfare, silence usually means one thing. Damage control is no longer about prevention, it's about containment. And containment is failing. Behind the scenes, multiple artists who once had open deals with Diddy are now attempting to revise their publishing contracts. Why? Because if even a hint of this trial touches any business transaction between Diddy and a current artist, that artist's catalog could become legally toxic. There are also whispers, unconfirmed but credible, that at least one witness tied to the trial has already broken a sealed NDA by cooperating with investigators. And that could open the floodgates. Because once a judge rules that NDAs were used to suppress evidence of criminal activity, they become invalid. That means any guest, employee, or affiliate who signed a non-disclosure agreement under the guise of private party privacy may now be legally cleared to speak freely in court. Think about that. Think about the stories that were buried. Think about the assistants who left quietly. Think about the guests who got uncomfortable and never came back, but never said why. They may now be protected witnesses. And Orlando might have just kicked that door open. But why is this scaring people so much? Because Diddy's empire wasn't built alone. Like any powerful figure, he had a chain of handlers. People who made calls. People who managed travel. People who picked up phones when no one else would. That's who's next. And insiders say some of them are already being flipped. These aren't high-profile names. They're not celebrities. They're power brokers, the kind who fly under the radar but make everything run. And once they start cooperating, the case shifts from he said, she said, to a fully traceable operational timeline. Let's pause here and talk about how celebrity culture allowed this to happen. For years, Diddy's events were viewed as the pinnacle of elite access. The Ciroc boys, the yachts, the villas, the after parties. It was branding genius. And it worked. Celebrities clamored to be invited. Influencers faked RSVPs just to post from the same poolside. But here's what wasn't discussed publicly: the power imbalance. At those events, Diddy wasn't just a host. He was a gatekeeper, a kingmaker. Being in his orbit could unlock brand deals, TV appearances, festival slots. That kind of power creates silence. It creates compliance. And now that power structure is being exposed and dismantled in real time. Orlando Brown's testimony is significant not just because of what he recorded, but because of what it represents. Someone walking into that world, walking out with evidence and daring to share it. That's why the response has been so aggressive. That's why the defense is reportedly pushing hard to exclude him from the witness list, citing mental instability and irrelevance. Because they know, if he's allowed to speak in open court, and the jury hears even 1 minute of those tapes, it's over. But while Diddy's team scrambles, the entertainment industry is splitting into factions. Some stars are staying eerily quiet, waiting it out, no doubt on the advice of PR teams and attorneys. Others are taking subtle steps to distance themselves, unfollowing Diddy's accounts, quietly pulling past collaborations. But a third group, they're watching all of this and wondering, how much of what I've seen, what I've participated in, could come back to bite me? Because here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. This trial is setting a precedent. A legal precedent for what counts as coercion at celebrity events. For how NDAs are treated in criminal investigations. 4. What level of digital evidence is admissible when gathered without consent in private residences? This isn't just about Diddy's guilt or innocence. It's about redefining where the line is drawn between consent and complicity when power is involved. And for some people in the industry, that line just moved a lot closer than they're comfortable with. Meanwhile, rumors are swirling about a secret second phone Diddy allegedly used, an off-grid device only accessible via a private courier system. That's right. Not email. Not encrypted apps. A literal physical message relay system for certain communications. Investigators are reportedly trying to track down where that phone is, or who has access to it. If it exists, and if anything on it supports the prosecution's theory of premeditated coercion, that's game over. Again. But even if that phone never surfaces, the growing digital and testimonial pylon is starting to shift the energy inside the courtroom. Reporters say the judge is becoming increasingly intolerant of stall tactics. That opening statements will hit like a freight train. That the jury is paying close attention. That more witnesses are being scheduled for early appearances than expected. And once Orlando speaks, this trial will enter a completely different phase. No longer about hearsay. No longer about party culture. But about a pattern, a structure, a system, one that's finally being dragged into the daylight.